semi-sober. I wasn't actually really planning on filming tonight, but essentially today it has been nearly 40 degrees here in the UK, which I know a few of my American viewers are probably like, come on, it's not even hot, but here it is pretty bloody hot, let me tell you that. And I figured, rather than trying to get some probably well-needed sleep, I'd just sit down and record this video. I had planned to do this video at some point, but I actually figured it needed to be done sooner rather than later, so these reviews are timely and somewhat relevant, because there's no point reviewing TV shows like months after they've sort of finished. So I figured I would lump loads of TV shows that I have watched and finished all into one video together, and we would take a pretty nice chilled, slow discussion about them. Usually with my movie reviews I make quite a few notes and they're quite structured. I have made absolutely no notes for this video. All that I have done is decided on the 5 TV series that I am going to be talking about. I will be sure to timestamp the sort of sections for each of the TV shows down below, just in case you want to skip one, but I encourage you to watch the whole video, please. Or if you fall asleep, which is obviously a pretty good outcome, then you can find your place another day. But I may have put a few in the title or in the description, but the TV shows we're going to be reviewing are Stranger Things, The Boys, Miss Marvel, Umbrella Academy, and then at the end, even though some time has passed since it finished, Kenobi. And I'm basically going to give my thoughts on them in a sort of more rambly fashion rather than a structured review. And I would love you to leave comments down below with your thoughts on these TV shows. I'll do a spoiler warning for all these shows. There will be spoilers because it's going to be just like a ramble me talking. It's not going to be spoiler free, so you've had your warning. I wonder what TV show we should start with. Do you know what? I think I'd like to start strong. I think I want to start with The Boys. Coming into season 3 of The Boys, it was in my top 3 favourite TV series ever. And I think after series 3 it cemented itself as my favourite ever. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did a top 10 TV series. I can't even remember off the top of my head what my top 3 was. I think it was The Office US, which you can't really compare The Office to The Boys, but I think it was Game of Thrones, The Office and The Boys potentially. But The Boys is maybe not including The Office. The Office is in a level of its own, but with drama type shows, The Boys is just absolutely clear. It is so far clear. I absolutely loved season 3. It was just fantastic. What they did so well that I feel quite a few TV series have suffered from over the last year is there were literally borderline no filler episodes. There weren't any filler episodes. We got to the finale and it finished and I was like, I literally cannot believe that's the season finished. Like, where did it go? Obviously we had Herogasm, which the way they were describing it, I thought it was going to be like outrageous, and some aspects of it were obviously pretty gross, but the best aspect of that episode wasn't the grossness of it, but obviously the fight with Soldier Boy Homelander and Butcher. I've really loved the dynamic of the conflict over Temp V, and I feel like there may come a point where all the boys just have to suck up and take it, and that is going to make for one incredible fight scene in Season 4. Soldier Boy, he's kind of a despicable character, but you cannot help but love him. Jensen Ackles did such a good job. I don't know about you guys if you've seen The Boys. I sing that Soldier Boy, what show does he go on? Is it Gold or something? I literally sing that Soldier Boy rap all day, every day. And before that, I was singing that bloody License to Drive song. So they really smashed it with like invading the subconsciouses of every person who'd seen it. But yes, Soldier Boy's such a complex, interesting character, and I'm hoping he comes back in Season 4 because he's just so good. I mean, the standout realistically is Homelander, played by Anthony Starr. Really, his overall performance at Homelander comes close to Heath Ledger's Joker, and I don't just throw that about lightly, but the range of this guy is absolutely ridiculous, and I think realistically without him and the way he portrays Homelander, that character, there's no way the show is as good as it is. So I don't throw that compliment out lightly. Obviously it's not on par with Heath Ledger's Joker, but it does come very, very close, and if he doesn't scoop up a load of awards for this performance, then it's an absolute robbery. But obviously he's going to be up against quite a few of the actors from Stranger Things for various accolades, but Anthony Starr is a star. He is just unbelievable. I think really he was one of my standouts for the series, seeing Butcher with powers, but I thought Huey's arc through the series was definitely the strongest, and you could argue Butcher to an extent, but Huey at first being like a kid in a candy shop with Temp V, like finally he doesn't have to run away, he's got powers, blah blah blah, but then actually in the finale, rather than taking Temp V, he chooses instead to empower Starlight and take that more backseat role, proving that he didn't need Temp V to, be of help to the boys and still be a hero. Although Starlight, she's probably my least favourite character. As Annie, she's great, but her powers are just so rubbish. She literally rose into the air and charged up for like a minute just to push Soldier Boy back like a meter. I don't know, but I thought the finale was great. I saw quite a lot of people saying they found it disappointing, but I think it comes back to the fact that loads of people have their theories, and when the big TikTok accounts make theories, everyone jumps on it and they're like, oh yeah, this is gonna happen, oh it's gonna be insane, and then when it doesn't happen, there's people complaining en masse. So I think it actually subverted expectations, and they pulled it off really, really well. Homelander and Butcher kind of working together, and there was sort of that little look of recognition or of respect almost. I thought it was just a really cool way to go for the finale, but I think Season 4 is going to be, absolutely mental. But The Boys, really, a 10 out of 10 season, it's a 10 out of 10 show, and it just really cements itself to me as my favourite ever TV show. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Thinking what show we should do next. Do you know what? I'm gonna go with Miss Marvel next, and then we'll do Stranger Things in the middle, so we'll have a Stranger Things sandwich. Miss Marvel, obviously the latest MCU limited TV series. this, for me, was a massive surprise. It's MCU, so I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna give it a go. I will say, I don't think this series is necessarily aimed at appealing to me, a 24-year-old man. I think it's really aiming at people a little bit younger than that. But it was so surprising, and the word I'd use to summarise it is refreshing. Some of the dialogue, very cringe, very, kind of childish, but like I say, I'm not necessarily the target audience. But the art styles and the sort of motion graphics and some of the sequences were just absolutely beautiful. And just like, for example, when she's having a simple text conversation, it's like graffitiing in the background, or it's like popping up in creative ways. Like, they thoroughly invested in that side of things, and the final result was something that was very unique and refreshing. As I said, in terms of Kamala's actual powers, I don't know if the CG is that. I'm not completely sold on the cosmic purple energy. It's okay, but I think what really stood out, this series felt more cinematic than a few of the other TV series, MCU TV shows. Apologies for the creaking. The cameras just seem to be of a better quality, and the locations, obviously there was less green screen used, and it's just so much easier to just buy into the story when you're actually in a location. Now, while I found episode 5 a little bit boring, I appreciated what it was trying to do, telling this story, a coming of age story of a young Muslim girl within the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Within the subtext, that's not the word I'm looking for. Within the kind of backdrop of the partition of India, I think was great, and I was skeptical coming into this series, thinking, is Marvel just gonna do the whole Muslim representation thing in a not great way, and it's just them ticking a box? But obviously I can't speak for the Muslim community, but I thought it was done in a really brilliant way, and it wasn't like the Muslim element wasn't something that was shoehorned in. It was integral to the plot and to this coming of age story, and to her powers even. It was all really important, and I just think it tried to do something different, and it landed. Yes, the series is not for everyone. It is completely different to Moon Knight. Moon Knight much darker in tone, much more serious, dealing with, the partition of India is pretty serious, but dealing with more mental illnesses and stuff, Moon Knight did. But I think really that is the beauty of the MCU now. We can no longer cling on to, the OGs of Iron Man, Captain America. There are new stories that are being told. I feel like this is an ad for Marvel. I promise I haven't been paid to say this. Although Kevin Feige, if you want to hit me up, feel free. But I love that we're, watching these stories being told about a greater variety of characters. How moving forward, how they're going to tie them all together to bring them together and still have a story that's, coherent and doesn't feel too messy. I don't know, but that's not down to me, that's down to the writers. But Miss Marvel, anyway, to summarise it, refreshing. Obviously some cringy scenes, but overall I really appreciated what it tried to do. And obviously we've got to talk about the big reveal at the end, essentially confirming the existence of mutants in the MCU. I really didn't think that they would do this in Miss Marvel. I mean, technically they sort of did it in Multiverse of Madness with Professor X, but that was technically another universe. Well, not technically, it was another universe. And when Bruno said, "You've got a mutation," the little stinger of the X-Men theme playing. I mean, I've never watched the show, but I know you can bet that I know that theme. And I was sort of just like, I couldn't believe that. I thought they were going to go the Inhuman route, but it seems that they're just going to make Kamala a mutant, which is interesting because I think I read the other day that originally Kamala was going to be a mutant, but they didn't want, there was something about not wanting the rights to go to certain people, so they made her an Inhuman. But yeah, super exciting. I hope we don't have to wait too long for some live action X-Men in the MCU, but it will be really interesting to see how they do it. If you've got any theories as to how they're going to integrate the X-Men into the MCU, you know, where they could have been this whole time, then feel free to theorise down below in the comments. Now, I think we can move on to Stranger Things. Now, before I go into Season 4, in terms of Stranger Things so far, I loved Season 1. I think Season 1 is just like beyond iconic in so many different ways. Season 2 was okay. It wasn't great. It is my least favourite season by some degree. Season 3 looks fantastic. Story-wise, it is good. It isn't the strongest, and I believe it's sort of carried by, obviously it looks fantastic because the CGI, the budgets went through the roof, but I believe the story is good. But what stands out to me from Season 3 is the performances. The season is really carried by Billy, and then the dynamic between Dustin, Steve and Robin, in my opinion. But Season 4 was just absolutely ridiculous, as in good. Stranger Things Season 4 might well go down as one of the greatest seasons of any show of all time. As a show, completely, Stranger Things is probably up there, but this particular season was just absolutely fantastic. Before I just ramble about all the positives, the one main negative thing I can think about this series is it's very clear the writers didn't really know what to do with the LA people, or wherever they are. It's not LA, but the people not in Hawkins. Mike, Will, Argyle and Jonathan, after 11 leaves, their story is kind of pointless. Like, they're just trying to find 11, they go and visit Susie, and it's just like, I found every time they came on screen I was just like, oh, it just removed me, because the Russian story was so compelling, and then obviously all the stuff going down in Hawkins was just amazing. So that would be my only sort of criticism, but I think once we have Season 5, I think sort of Will's backseat role will become more apparent, because I think in Season 5 Will is going to be a very key character, and I would love it somehow if Will was the antagonist, or one of the antagonists. He became one of the villains somehow. I just think that would add such an interesting dynamic to the friend group and to the story. But this show was just fantastic. I thought it was interesting that they did the 7-2 episode split, but looking back now, it was very clever. Before, I looked at the run times and I was like, it's going to be too long. It got to the end of it, I was like, it wasn't long enough. They just managed everything so fantastically. If I have to pick a favourite episode, I think, the finale was done so well, but I think Dear Billy is just beautiful. One of the greatest episodes of any TV show ever. It's done so well. And Sadie Sink just does such an amazing job. I think that's really what stood out for me this season is these some of them are still technically children, although the actor for Dustin is 20, but these young actors prove that they can act. I can't remember the last time I cried this much over a TV show or film. It was probably Endgame, but I honestly think I think honestly I cried more in this finale than I did in Endgame. Eddie was my favourite ever, and Joseph Quinn and Gaten Matarazzo did an absolutely unbelievable job with that scene, because I kind of had already accepted that Eddie was going to die, but what I hadn't sort of prepared myself was for how well it was going to be executed and how well it was going to be acted. It just absolutely destroyed me. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I'm obviously a man, but I'm not afraid to talk about feelings and crying. I'm not just talking like a few tears, and my girlfriend can vouch for this. I was like hideous, ugly crying, like literally like had the stammer and everything, tears streaming, and that was just at the Eddie bit. And then it cuts to Lucas and Max, and then Sadie Sink and Caleb McLaughlin give arguably even better performances, where Max is screaming, "I'm not ready to die," and then Lucas, it's making me feel bloody emotional just talking about it again. Lucas's screams, and then the backing track, I can't remember the name of the song, I did look it up, but it was just absolutely beautifully done, and I was just an absolute wreck. Unpopular opinion, because I know Max is super popular. I don't think 11 should have saved her. She just, okay, I guess this is another gripe I have with the show. She just magically sprouted a power when it was convenient. It's kind of like watching or reading a J.K. Rowling book / film, a Harry Potter book. Whenever the protagonist is in trouble, they just obtain a new magical skill or a magical item that helps them on their quest. It just felt a bit like that, and it was just like, it sort of cheapens the moment of that Max and Lucas had. Because I weeped, and she's probably gonna be fine. I think really there would have been a bit more emotion and a bit more impetus moving into season 5 had Max died. But you know what, the thing is, they can't kill Max off because she nearly died. Well, she pretty much did die twice in this season. They can't do it a third time because it just becomes a bit like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. But in terms of favourites, I mean, Steve, Eddie and Murray I thought were just fantastic this season. Murray is just so funny, but Steve is just, he's the greatest, isn't he? One of the greatest. Maybe this is a bit far. I was going to say one of the best written characters in fictional TV series, but I think his arc from 1 to 4 has been amazing, and I think 5 simply cannot end with him dying. I think really, character arc wise, it makes no sense to kill Steve off. He really has to have his happy ending, and I'm not the biggest Nancy fan, but I feel like they're kind of destined to be together. And Jonathan, they've really done Jonathan's character dirty, I think. Jonathan's arc through 1 to 2 I think was pretty good, and he really cared about Will, but now he's just sort of there. I have to say another standout thing, the whole Will being gay thing I thought was actually done really nicely. They didn't make it too obvious, and Noah Schnapp really sold it, and he didn't have to, outwardly say it, because obviously, during those times it wasn't 100% accepted. Even even among friends and family, but I thought it was done really well, and I wonder if they'll come back to it next season or whether it'll just be like a background thing. One thing I just hope is that Will gets a decent haircut in season 5. Surely he's due one by now. So yeah, Steve, my boy, needs a happy ending. Almost happy Robin got her girl at the end, and yeah, we shall see. It ended very interestingly. I just hope we don't have to wait too long for season 5. And the last thing I'll say about the finale, leading up to the finale, I was bloody sick of that Kate Bush song, but the way they remixed it with like an original score for like the final climactic battle, I thought was absolutely fantastic, and this show deserves all the awards for score and soundtrack. It really was phenomenal. So Stranger Things 4, just an absolutely fantastic show, but you guys can let me know what you thought down below. Now the next two, I'm going to do Kenobi last, just because it's kind of the hype train. I guess the hype around the show has kind of died down, because it must have been a month or so ago it finished. So I'll do Umbrella Academy now. Season 3 came out a few weeks ago. As of a few weeks ago, I hadn't seen a single episode of Umbrella Academy, but I literally binged seasons 1 through 3 within about probably like a week and a half. And it honestly, it goes in my top 5 TV shows, and that's not like recency bias aside and whatnot. The thing with Umbrella, I'll talk about season 3 first. Season 3 started very strong, very strong. The first half of season 3 is fantastic, but I just felt the longer season 3 went on, the more unattached I became from the plot. I felt like it just got a bit messy and a bit silly. Don't get me wrong, Umbrella Academy is always silly, and that is part of its charm. But I just felt, I was like, well, why is this happening? But what I will say is, I think when season 4 comes out and we see season 4, I think really season 3 and 4 will greatly complement each other, and season 4 will make season 3 make more sense, if that makes sense. It will give season 3 more of a purpose, but we're going to have to wait a little bit for that. I don't even think Netflix have greenlit season 4 yet, but there's no way they're not going to. It can't just end there. So yeah, I watched all 3 seasons. I don't know what I prefer out of 1 or 2. At the time I preferred 2, but actually I think 1 may be better. Oh, I don't know, that's really tricky. If you've seen it, let me know what you think down below. For those of you who haven't seen it, I mean, I may talk spoilers, so skip ahead, but if you're not too bothered, it's basically, the premise of the show is loads of women around the world are randomly, instantly become pregnant, and they give birth, and these children each have sort of unique abilities, so they're kind of like superheroes, but they're not necessarily framed as superheroes. And this man, Sir Reginald Hargreaves, basically goes round the world and pays families for the babies, and he creates the Umbrella Academy. He teaches them to use their gifts, blah blah blah, when they're kids. And then the movie skips forward a few years, and they're all adults, they've all gone their separate ways, lived separate lives, done various things, and then something brings them together, and then they're faced with a threat, blah blah blah. And then there's all time travel stuff involved. It can get a little bit confusing, but it's done in such a fun and unique way. There's 2 main things that I love about this show, is the overall vibe of it, and the characters and the dynamics between the characters. I struggle to think of a show has such a diverse sort of range of characters and individuals that all engage so well. That's just the main standout for me. I love Five. I can't remember, is it Aidan Gallagher who plays Five? I just think he's incredible, and his powers are super cool too. There's some really cool sequences across the 3 seasons of him in action, but they're all great. Obviously the standout from season 3 is of course that footloose scene. It's just possibly one of the greatest scenes ever. It was just, yeah, you should definitely give it a watch. It's very weird, very unique, but it is a lot of fun, and there's a really, really great story, and there's really great sub-stories among characters as well, with their various difficulties and coming to grips with their powers, blah blah blah. It's really not a conventional superhero show or story. I think that's why I like it. It's sort of, while The Boys breaks the sort of superhero formula with like gore and being outrageous, there is gore in Umbrella Academy, but it more breaks the genre by being just outright mental and crazy. So you should definitely give it a watch if you have not. But let me know what you think down below if you have seen it, and any theories you've got for season 4, because it did leave on a big bit of a cliffhanger. That is my main gripe with the show. Each of the series ends on a cliffhanger, which is just annoying, but whatever. And then finally, we move on to Kenobi. Oh dear. Okay. This is a difficult one, because there are different elements to enjoyment of the show. I'll just say this first. Obi-Wan Kenobi is not a good TV show. It's not. It's an absolute mess. It's put together poorly, story-wise and character arc-wise. Like, it's just not great. People complained about Reva having too much screen time and it being the Reva show. I actually think she was one of the best parts about the show, and at least she had a sense of progression, and her story I thought was pretty compelling, and obviously her reasons for going against Vader, I thought they were a little bit predictable, but still the payoff was pretty nice. But I agree, in a show called Kenobi, she shouldn't have as much screen time as she did, but she was a cool character. I just feel there was a lot of pointless filler scenes, and then that whole pointless filler episode of rescuing Leia. I've heard there's now a cut which cuts out all the filler and everything, and it's cut into like a movie, and apparently it's so much better, so I might give that a watch actually. Obviously, this show does give fans that sort of fan service. There are some flashbacks between Anakin and Kenobi, and then obviously I think the finale is good, and the conversations between Kenobi and Vader / Anakin are really intense and really quite heartbreaking. But I just think we maybe needed a little bit, because I saw loads of people calling for more Clone Wars flashbacks just for the sake of fan service, but really I think they were kind of needed to add a bit more drama and raise the stakes a little bit for the finale, if that makes sense. I just feel like with The Mandalorian, part of why it's so compelling and why it's just so amazing is the storytelling is quite simple, but it knows what it's trying to do. I don't really think this Kenobi show knew what it was trying to do. I think they just thought they could have Vader be on screen and everyone just sort of forget about the sort of clunky, cringy dialogue and the sort of incoherent plot. But that's just my thought. Obviously, I loved seeing Vader on screen. Ewan McGregor is fantastic as Kenobi, but as a TV show, I just didn't think the story was that strong. just see Liam Neeson at the end, eh? But I just think people shouldn't be blinded by, you know, fan service elements, and when you look at the series as a whole, it wasn't great. It just didn't quite do it for me. But I hope they don't do a season 2, because I just feel they'll just milk it and potentially destroy the character of Kenobi, but hopefully not. So yeah, those were my thoughts on The Boys, Miss Marvel, Stranger Things, Umbrella Academy, and what did I just talk about? Kenobi. Sorry, it's still like 32 degrees and I am dying. So I'm kind of all out of TV shows to watch at the minute. Comedy wise, I'm watching Peep Show for the first time, which is just fantastic, but in terms of drama I don't really have anything. So if you guys have any recommendations of TV shows you've been watching recently, they can be old, they can be new, they can be on Netflix, Sky, whatever, then please do give me some recommendations, preferably something dramatic with a good story. I keep meaning to get around to like Prison Break and Ozark, but give me some suggestions and I'll try and get around to them. But everybody, for tonight, that is going